Hi everyone, welcome today. I am talking with Kerstin Martin, and we are going to be talking all about human design and what it is to be a projector in human design and having your own business and how we use being a projector to like market our businesses, our energy use in our businesses, like all of the different things. So, when did you learn about human design, Kirsten? And I would really love it if you could give us a little synopsis about, if you don't know what this is, a little bit about it. I feel like you'll explain it better than I will.
Well, I'll try. I might actually read a little bit something from. I'm not like a technical expert at human design, and but I do actually have a module in one of my courses. I have a business foundations course, and I do have a model about self-knowledge, and because it really has had an impact on how I run my business. So I discovered human design a few years ago. I want to say maybe 2, 3 years ago. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure when. And it was such an eye-opener. Now, I've also, previously to that, I've really been into the Enneagram. I think the Enneagram is great. I like astrology, and all the woo stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely woo.
Yeah, and but to me, it's all about just knowing yourself. And when I discovered human design and that I'm a projector like you, um, it was like I was given a map to my life. That's how it felt. It really like explained my life to me.
Mm,
And now human design, unlike the Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, you do a test and then that tells you what you are. So human design is fixed, so you use your birth date and your birthplace. And human design includes various disciplines, and I'm just actually going to read that from my lesson. It combines elements of astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, and quantum physics. It's quite technical, to be honest. That's why I'm not an expert, because you have these lines and gates and all these different things.
Sacral
And
energies and
yeah,
yeah, some of
and
it goes over my head.
yeah,
I look at the top level stuff when I've been getting into this because it can be quite
yeah.
intense and complex.
And you have, there are 5 types in human design, so you
Yeah.
have generators, manifesting generators. Together, they make up about 70% of the population. Then you have projectors, that's us, which is about 20% of the
Yeah.
population. Manifestors is about 9%, and then reflectors is only about 1%.
Yeah, I thought yeah, I thought it was two, but yeah, 1%. Okay, so I
Yeah,
know
well, yeah, I
it's
mean, it,
there.
it might vary a little bit, but we are, you and I as projectors, we're roughly 20% of the population. So we basically try to navigate a world that has been built by and built for manifestors, or generators rather,
Generators, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Who are the
generators
worker
and
bees of the world? Does that make us queens? Worker bee, the queen bees. But yeah, they're definitely the way that generators work is they generate energy. They're just constantly can go, go,
yeah,
go, go, go. So they're probably more like the hustlers in the
absolutely.
business world, whereas we're absolutely not that. And that's why I didn't actually do this very well at the beginning of our chat, was introducing Kirsten and what her business is. Kirsten used to be a website designer. That's how I know her because she was huge in the Squarespace world, still is. And you've actually, yeah, pivoted into creating a calm business model for business owners that don't want to hustle. And she's got a great marketing course, a small business foundation course. What's your thing?
And a course for course creators, on
Yes.
how to create a course
Yeah, because you're
calmly.
amazing at doing that. And and I'm a branding and website designer, and I now have my YouTube channel, which is sharing all about energy, mindset work, and also how to grow your business as a small business without all of the hustle, and helping you with branding, web design stuff, and also like small processes in your business and systems and all that sort of jazz. So going back to the projector stuff, We connected about, I want to say 4 years ago or something, or 3 years ago, but you definitely
Yeah.
knew about being a projector at that point. So how it happened on my journey, I actually found out about this about 10 years ago or 9 years
Oh,
ago.
really? Already
So
10 years
yeah,
ago. Wow.
so I found out about being a projector right at the beginning of my journey. So if you've not watched this video already, I've got a video called You Are a Badass by Jensen Cherry Changed My Life. And I talk in there about how I read her book. Before that, I was like very cynical of personal development. And then she just opened my eyes to like what we could be and do in this world, and the universe, law of attraction, manifesting, all of this sort of stuff. And through her, I met the person that she'd been on a coaching course with, or I think they were accountability buddies, and that lady became my coach. And she was very spiritual. So my beginnings into starting my own business was not with somebody, and I do think that this was all massively aligned. It was not with somebody that was all about strategy, like get your marketing, hustle, do this, do that. Like I felt very called and I was meant to work with this woman. And she was very much like, before we had our coaching session, she asked me for my birthday, the time of birth, where I was born. I was like, this is a bit hooky, but whatever. And then she did a human design reading for me, and she wanted to get this reading before she guided me on coaching so that she knew what my design was and what how I would work. And I think that that was such a nice foundation to set me up. And she always said to me, and this is like the thing that I struggle with the most, if you're interested in this and you found out you're a projector, is like, you're not put on this earth to do. You're and you've got and you've got to wait for the invitation. I was like, ooh, hang on, what the fuck does that mean? You know? Because you're just like, I'm not put on this earth to do what? So I'm not meant to work, and I've got to wait for people to invite me to work. So I'm not meant to market myself and like ask people to do it. So I remember feeling very confused about it. And I think for the first 5 years of my business, where I was on the income roller coaster and stuff, it was when I was just trying to. I think I was butting up against this, the meaning behind being a projector, and just thinking it was all a bit load of waffle or whatever, and still trying to do things in a way that was hustling, that burnt me out. Because I just thought, oh, I bet anybody could, you could tell anybody that they're a projector and they would just be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, and it's not really me and it doesn't really mean anything. It's all a bit kooky. But then the more you listen to it and you think, oh God, that does actually really affect me. Energy work does really affect me. So, that those were the two things, is like you've got to wait for the invitation and you've got to you're not put on this earth to do. So that's what I really struggled with. Like, you obviously know the same thing because that's what we're told as projectors. How did you make that work for you in your business?
I mean, for me, actually, my reaction was probably a little different. For me, it was like a light bulb moment. It was like, okay, now I know why I never liked sales, why I never liked the hustle. And I mean, before I became an online business owner, I've worked in corporate sales, for instance, and I was always much more about the relationships, and I was never into like the hard sell. And I mean, I remember a woman once tried to convince me to become a Mary Kay consultant, but that's a big thing over here where they sell like the Avon lady, right? And yeah, and you're just in the supermarket chatting to the cashier, and then you just hand her your business card, and ask for the sale. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no way, I could never do that. And so for me, it was actually a moment of relief when I learned that. And where I thought, okay, that just makes so much sense, So now I understand why I've always been resisting like the hustle and the sale so much. But that doesn't mean that, I can't have a business and that I can't be out there, And the way I actually refine or refined it for myself, or rephrased it was we're like lighthouses. And there is actually a quote by Anne Lamott, like lighthouses don't go running all over the island trying to save boats. They just stand there shining their light. And that's how they guide others, and then the people who need them will find them and, be guided by them. And that's what we are. We are the lighthouses in this world. And so all we have to do is, yes, we have to still be there. We still have to shine our light. We have to tell people what we do, but we do not go out and ask, like for the sale, because just by being there and by shining our lights, others will notice us. And if it's something that resonates with them, they will come to us. And then we will be able to help them, with, whatever they need help with.
Mic drop. Okay. I was just like thinking when you were saying that, I was like, this is very good. Like, and I'm just, it's even helping me now when you say it like that, because yeah, I felt confusion for a long time because I heard about it at the beginning where you've heard about it quite a long way into your business
Oh
where
yeah, I've already
you
had my career and my business. Yeah.
but you'd had your business and you'd struggle and you're like, why am I this way? And then you're told this is like actually your design and this is and then you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Whereas I'm like, but I'm seeing all of these people and they're like doing this and they're doing that, but I'm not meant to do it. So what am I meant to do? And I don't understand. And I think, I came to it actually really getting it and it really settling with me when I was 5 years in. I think I've told this story a few times. Is like when I applied for a 9 to 5 because my mental health couldn't keep up with it. When I had a 9 to 5 and I had a steady income coming in, I knew how much I was earning each month and I was
Yeah.
never stressed really about it. And then when I had my own business, you can earn like 10, 20 grand a month, but then you can have 3 months of earning
It's the
500
feast and
pounds.
famine cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I was just applied for this job and it was people that supported me and were like, just keep going. You've done really well. Just keep on at it. And so I did. And then I did a few things differently this time. I got very clear and focused. And I went within with my intuition to be like, what have I really enjoyed in my business?
Yeah.
And like and can I do that in a smarter way, in a quicker way, in a more efficient way? And then what is my marketing avenue? And that's when I really did what you were just saying about how you couldn't go up to the cashier and ask for the sale, but you could build connections and that's what works for you. And that's what, you're very well known for your email marketing because you've got this incredible newsletter. I only subscribe to like 3 newsletters. You're one of them. And I realized that when I did, after playing for the 9 to 5, I did these other things. It was like, well, what do I really enjoy? And I found this other woman that worked very much like me, and I think she might even be a projector. She's a very intuitive designer, and she said that her business, which was nearly at 6 figures, was just referrals. And something in me just settled, and I was like, oh, okay, and that's relationship building. So I was like, I've always been very good at that. I've always been very, when I'm reaching out to somebody, it's not really because I want something from them. It's just like, let's be mates. Let's have a friendship, an equal back and forth. It's not because I'm trying to get something from you,
Yeah.
um, other than a friendship. And it being very reciprocal. And I think when we're like that as projectors, people want to help you and do things and going back to your lighthouse theory and us shining our light. I've worked with some very respected, very successful business owners, and they'll come to me. And I now have to stand in this power a little bit more because I'm like, who, me? But I feel quite proud of this when they come to me. I'm like, wow, because they're saying, as you project projector, can I chat to you about what I'm doing in my business? And I think that we see things differently. We read people's energy. We know we guide them. I always remember my coach saying to me, you guide people. Like she would come to me and she was so successful and we would have like these back and forth sounding sessions and I would just get energy reads and I'm like, I'm not sure about that. I think you should be doing this. you know, and they have their own will and they'll be saying, well, I'm not sure about that. But I feel like I would definitely have gut checks. And we're very intuitive, I think, about what's
Yeah.
the right way for somebody. Um, yeah, have you ever found that with I don't know if this is an intuitive thing or if it is a projector thing or what, or if we're
Well, I
both
think it's
intuitive.
both. I think projectors are very intuitive,
Right,
and because we tend to see also the bigger picture,
right.
so projectors tend to be very empathetic, and because that's kind of what we do, because we step back, and then we see, the bigger picture of what's going on, and then we kind of figure out, how can we guide people through this, and
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
very, very much like guides, and yeah, I mean, I think, we live, especially if you have an online business, we live in a world that's very driven by hustle culture, and that's all those, generators out there. And so how are we still be seen, because that's always been like my struggle, like you have an online business. It's a little different when you do one-on-one services, you only need like a certain amount of clients every year, to run a successful business with that. But if, for instance, you're a product-based business, and that's what I have found when I've changed from being a one-on-one web designer to offering online courses, when I started doing that full time, I had to change my marketing a little bit, and how do you do that as a projector who doesn't like to, do the whole, what I call the song and dance, of online marketing, and but again, it's relationships, it's doing webinars, doing YouTube. Having a YouTube channel is actually a great medium for a projector, I think,
Yeah,
because that's where you get to share all your gifts, and everything, and that is kind of like your lighthouse platform, if you want, or doing like what you did the other day, doing your 1 day summit, where you invite experts and people, and that's one of the best summits out there,
yeah,
and
beautiful.
it really is, and that is how, you have these relationships, and then you basically multiply your reach by inviting other people into that, so that is a really good way of doing that, because you also then shine your light on other people, you know
Yeah. And
and
I think that I don't know, a phrase that just came to mind when you said that was one of the very first books that I read after reading You Are a Badass was The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And the phrase that he coined in that was the zone of genius.
mm,
And I think that when you find out you are a projector and you're trying to navigate it, because there's lots of different ones, it's like, oh, your throat or your open your
oh
chest
yeah, and you have all the lines
is
and
an
all of that.
open sacral thing, so you actually
Yeah,
can't retain energy. Whereas, and you need this, and you've probably got a different one to me, and I'm just a bit like, "Oh, okay, this is a bit over my head, but I just do the top line stuff. But the zone of genius phrase is where you do something and it feels so easy to you, and it's just a joy and a pleasure, and it's something that you think, well, doesn't everybody find this really easy? And it's like, no, that's why it's your zone of genius. So it might be that you're really, I'm a really good web designer, but my zone of genius is the fact that I can have a conversation with a client, read their energy, and then design a really amazing brand and website. When they give me their copy, I'll look at it and be like, from our conversation, I don't feel like you've got the essence of this that you were saying, or I think because we look at the bigger picture. So I know in my business that the projector stuff really is quite my zone of genius because it comes naturally to me and I work with it. So it's it's really exciting when you start to like think about being a projector as a zone of genius and how can you use that in a great way. And when you were just saying then about YouTube, you know, I was just like poo-pooing YouTube for like, oh, I don't watch it. Oh, I'm not into it. I'm not doing it. And then I started getting a bit excited because I was like, I'd created this course called Design a Life You Love last year in 2025. And I just thought, I don't want to go on, for me to really sell lots of this, I'm going to have to do, you said the song and dance. I'm going to have to build a profile on Instagram and build a personal brand. And I just don't have the energy because I
Yeah.
think that's what we, as projectors, we'll talk about this in a bit about our energy. I just thought I can't do that. And it's just like it felt like a beast, a churning out every day content that's never going to be seen again unless you scroll back through the archives. And I thought I don't have, I can't do that. But then something like a whisper in my mind just kept on, YouTube kept on coming up, and I thought, ooh, I could actually do a video. And if the right person found it, then that would be the invitation, and it's like a longer form of content, and I can talk about stuff that I'm interested in, not just, I want to help web design, people with web design, but I also want to say, yeah, I can design you a website, but if you're not building the website around the life that you want to live, which is like my massive, like, North Star, is like designing a life that I love. If you're not designing a website or a business around that, then you're in trouble. So yeah, so let's talk about energy. How how do you work with energy in your business? How do you recharge it? Why is it different for a projector?
Well, I mean, I think projectors generally, they just don't have the energy that generators have. And but it means we need actually more rest. We need which in this world that we live in is not really the thing you do, and people often don't understand that.
Yeah.
And and I, it's really interesting because again, when I looked back at my life, so when I was working in the corporate world, um, I would often take 6 sick days, because I was just spent, and I needed time to recharge. I really could not work in this 9 to 5 container and keep my energy level all the time at this, level that it needed to be.
Yeah.
It was really hard. But I also felt really guilty because sometimes I would call in sick and I wasn't really sick. I just needed a break, basically. So it really was hard to fit
Interesting.
into that world, and at the time I didn't know that, of course. I didn't really, I always thought, oh, Kirsten, you shouldn't do this. But then a part of me was always like, yeah, but I really, really need this break right now, and so that's why I think for us projectors, for instance, having your own business is so much better, because then you can kind of ride these energy waves. You'll still have. No, I think also, like I also have ADHD, so I am very good at,
Same.
yeah, going through these hyper focus periods, right?
Yes.
When I'm,
That's what I was interested. I'm just gonna, sorry, talking about ADHD. This lighting is just, I'm gonna pull my blind down for two
yeah,
seconds, but
okay,
keep on chatting.
okay. Yeah, so so when you have these hyper focus periods of working, then you crash, afterwards. And I feel like between knowing that about, the ADHD, but also knowing that as a projector, I actually do need some more rest. I
Yeah.
can now, when I know, okay, I have a project I'm working on, I need to build it in, So for instance, creating a course, that has some really intense periods in it. But, because I now know that about myself, I actually build times into that where I know, okay, I can do maybe 3 days of really high focus. I could probably do a fourth or fifth day, but I won't. I will actually plan some time out after that, just so that I don't completely burn and crash. We're very good at burning and crashing.
Mm.
And especially, when you have your own business and you don't have a boss and well, you're the own boss, right? And
And
so there's
self-motivating yourself can be,
yeah, I mean, there's no one to like guide you or to just, say, hey, you need to, stop for a moment. And, so that is actually the nice thing about having your own business, and knowing this about yourself. also to feel less bad about
Yeah,
needing these
yeah,
periods of rest and reset, And yes, the world probably still doesn't completely understand it, but it's okay, and we don't have to explain, we don't have to justify it, It's just who we are. And we're still brilliant, we still get things done. We're just doing it a
yes.
little bit differently.
Oh, I really hope whoever's hearing this that has landed here and you're just like nodding and you've probably gone away and done the, it begins with a J, one of those charts that like reads it for you, have to know your time of birth, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm a projector. If you've even landed here and you didn't know. But I think that for me is the being kind to myself and being like, Liz, it's okay. You're all right to be this knackered from, or tired from like having a really intense few days. So like when I created my course, I felt like I needed like a month just to recover from that because it was, I've been thinking about it for so long. And I remember when I did Kate Scott's like building Squarespace templates, it was such a good course. And I just went intense mode. And again, I don't know if it's the projector, the ADHD or what, but I am just like, I'm working like 12-hour days. But and another thing as well for me as a projector is like, and I don't know if this is just me being a night owl, but I actually don't start getting productive till about 1 or 2. So
Yes, I'm
now
the same.
you're the same. Okay. And
Yeah.
my other friend, my biz bestie that I speak to every day, she's a projector. She's exactly the same as us. Is that I then flip my day where people have their enjoyment in the evening or their wind down time. I'll go for my walk in nature in the morning to reset myself, get some sunlight in my eyes. I will do my spiritual gym, which actually Jensen Cherry talks about the spiritual gym. So I love that phrase. And I'll have like my hot chocolate, mushroom, ashwagandha sort of like concoction thing that I have that's for focus. So I have that and I'll listen to like affirmations or a podcast, or I'll just like sit there in silence and vision what I want looking out of the window. And then I'll do some attract this is a new thing that I'm trying, like just doing an hour of reach out. And that might be doing a LinkedIn post or reaching out to an old client or reaching out to a business friend I've not spoken to for a while. And that's like showing the world that I'm energetically open for business. But I've done that before I have my lunch. And then I've done my lunch because what I was doing in the past and as a projector, feeling bad that I'd start my work at 1 or 2. And I feel like, fuck, I've not done anything today. But actually, I've done 1 hour, a very very light, just sort of sending the messages out that I'm open for work and I'm doing some sort something. So then I do the client work, and I used to do that. Sometimes I would start at 4 and finish at 1 or 2, but now I'm trying to do it starting at 1 or 2 and actually finishing at 6 or 7, so I can be in my garden. And I find that I heard this quote recently, and I don't know if I'm really got the statistic nailed down here, but something like 9 to 5, your 8 hour day, we're actually only productive for like 2.5 hours of those.
Oh yeah, I believe
And
that.
and I think that if we start especially as projectors, give ourselves a break, that the work, rather than feeling shit all day that you've not done anything, see if you can do it in 4 hours,
Yeah.
and like and have a really nice day until you have those 4 hours. Like, oh, lush.
Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely. And again, this is all part of like knowing yourself, and not every projector is necessarily like a night owl like us, you could
yeah,
be an early bird, and that's fine too. Then do that, and then you can have your afternoons, but I
yeah,
think that's very true about the 9 to 5. And it's the whole 9 to 5 construct is like, so I feel like it's becoming very outdated actually, and
I agree.
and yes, sure. I mean, sometimes we can have days where we are more focused, but I did an interesting exercise once actually, as part of like a productivity session. I tracked my time for 2 weeks, so I had like a spreadsheet and I timed myself what I was doing in that time. And And after 2 weeks, I realized actually I did a lot less actual work than I thought, and but I still got things done, and then I realized, but I also did a lot of like distraction work or going down social media rabbit holes and all of those things, because we can do that too. We're kind of prone to that, because that's almost like our way of forcing ourselves to just like stop for a moment, but then it's also energetically not that healthy, to do
Yeah.
that. And but that was a really, really helpful exercise where I thought, okay, now I know I can get work done in actually less time than I thought. Now all I have to do is just plan the other time that I have, and be a bit more gentle on my energy system in that time, and on my nervous system. And but I don't have to feel like I have to constantly, grind and hustle. I can actually get a lot done in that time, So yeah, so that was really, really helpful, I think, but
And I think that's where I think I said this at the beginning, that we are quite different. That's much, I know I've heard so many people talk about where they've logged their time. That gives me the heebie-jeebies even thinking about it. Like I'm like, I can't, I could never do that. Um, but I know intuitively I ain't working that many hours a day that I could be or should be. And there's a lot of should. But then I figured out if I just do that 1 hour of being a CEO more in my business, working on my business, like just client attracting activity for 1 hour, then I'm not going to feel shit and have low self-esteem. That because I've been recently feeling like aimless and I'm way squandering the possibility of like my business and my life because I'm not being very self motivated at the moment. So I like just doing that hour in the morning and then having the 4 hours in the afternoon or the 5 hours. Then that is 6 hours work, but it feels like I've had a lovely morning until like 1 or 2. And then I'm working till 8.
yeah,
And
and and I think that is also, a good example of, when, we say our strategy is wait to be invited, but that doesn't mean that we can't do some outreach,
yeah,
but it just has to be outreach in a way that is aligned with who we are. So yeah, reaching out to, for instance, former clients or people or friends, so you're not actively, having to go out and, ask for the sale, or for instance, podcast interviews, a lot of people say, well, make a list of podcasts you want to be on, and that would, be strategically, smart, to be on. And I've never done that. I've been on a lot of podcasts, but I was always invited. People always reached out to me about that. Summits, same thing. So I very rarely, I never ever had a list of, podcasts where I would then go and ask people I don't know, to, could I be on their podcast? But on the other hand, there is, for instance, a summit that also happens every year. A woman that I know, she organizes that. You can apply for that. So, of course, then I do that. If I feel that is aligned and there's an application process, yeah, then I submit my application. And then, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and I was accepted. So that was fine, but we don't have to like hustle, for the sale constantly with people that we don't know.
can I just say, I feel like had a bit of a, oh, thank you. And I hope that's what other people are feeling. Because that's one of my things, and it's still on my list of like, okay, Liz, find some podcasts, reach out to them. You should be on them. But that's just not what we're meant to do, is it, Kirsten? And it's like you're on lots of these things, but I think you were a lighthouse because you had your blog and you were constantly blogging and you became known in the Squarespace world for like having a calm business, your email marketing. So you were known from that. And I think that my zone of genius was like connection. So I started seeing all of these people that I admired in our industry, which is, as web designers in Squarespace as the platform. I then would do what I do is I wasn't asking you, I want to go on your podcast or I want to go on this. I was just like, I love making new friends. So I would start Instagramming you as if we were already friends. And I've now become good friends with you and like other people in the industry, like Christy Price, Will Myers, and Becca Inside the Square, and all these people that come on my summit. And now I'm just thinking that's why I'm doing my YouTube, because I want to have more of a lighthouse and I want to go on podcasts. But how are people going to ever hear of me if I don't do something where I put myself out there, but I'm not like asking for the thing, or I'm not, saying cold calling people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cold
Um,
calling is so horrible.
yeah, but I did that sometimes when I was
I,
struggling.
I did that when I was in my corporate sales role, and I
Yeah,
absolutely hated. I hated it so much that I actually convinced my boss, can we not hire an agency that does all the appointment making for us? And he actually said, well, if you want to manage that, yeah, sure. So that's what we did. So none of us had to go out and cold call anymore.
right. And that's what you could do in your business. You could find somebody to do that. And then you create content that
Yeah,
becomes a lighthouse. Oh, I could talk about this forever,
I
but
know.
I think that I would say takeaways for this as business owners, as a projector, would be, be a lighthouse, however that might look, like showing up in communities and helping, making friends with people that you admire and just chatting with them, and then maybe making your own summit, um, starting a YouTube channel, starting to blog, um, having local meetups in your local area. That's what I did when I moved to the Cotswolds in the
Yeah,
UK. And I created like a little WhatsApp group with business women that I'd met through something else. And 10 of those women actually formed a collective shop on one of the most popular
amazing.
streets in towns in the Cotswolds in Burford. Um, and I created that essentially. And so yeah, be the lighthouse, conserve your energy. You don't, I've slept next to somebody that wasn't in a great place at the time when we were like, I was comforting her, and like it's just my mate. Would always share a bed or something in London, and when you're flatmates and stuff. And I remember thinking the next day I woke up, and I know other projectors that wait, sometimes with their husbands, if their husband's going through lots of stress and things, they would pick up the energy from them. So energy is quite a thing that you need to conserve. If you're feeling like there's maybe toxic energy in your home, sometimes get out for a walk, conserve it. Do things with like woo-woo crystals, or like dance, or raise your energy by dancing, or like listening to good music, or do something that makes you feel good to like energize yourself, and be kind to yourself when you've worked really hard and you've done a spurt. Don't beat yourself up about it. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. Like
Yeah,
lighthouse, energy. They're
yeah,
like your two main things in business as projectors. So
yeah.
thank
I
you
think
so
you
much
I
for
think you
joining
summed
me.
it up really
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah, great. Because I know both of us, when we got on this call, we were like, we're not actually experts in like all of the sacral lines and all of
Oh
the,
yeah, 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 yeah.
all of that. But hopefully this has been helpful if you're just starting on your journey, or you're just interested in human design or anything like that. And also, this could actually just be really helpful to you if you, however you identify, or whatever design, or even if you're not interested in learning about it. But I think that this sort of tactic would work for anybody if you don't want to hustle.
Good. Yeah, for anyone who wants to have a calm business.
Yeah.
So
And go check out Kerstin's Calm Business course. Where can we find you, Kerstin?
you just go to calmbusiness.com.
I
And
mean, could we get
yeah,
any simpler than that? And go check out Kirsten's courses. Like the testimonials that Kirsten gets from her courses are like ridiculous. She's so
oh,
helpful. I mean, she's German, so it's very logical. It's very well laid. There's no waffling like if, like you're on my videos or something. She's gets to the point, and she's brilliant. And also sign up to her newsletter. You know, when this going out, you'll be sending those regularly, or maybe not. I don't know what's going on. I know that you've been doing a bit of sabbatical, because
Oh
you're
yeah, but you can still sign up to the newsletter,
right.
and that's on my website. There's a link at the top for newsletter, so check it out.
Yeah, please do,
And
please do. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's talk, and please, wherever I'm going to post it, watch the next video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
okay, thanks, Liz.